Tonight on The Roast, Queensland passes tough new laws to stop bikies and Tasmania doesn't pass a euthanasia law. But first they say Mark Humphries is smarter than the average bear, which when you think about it isn't all that impressive.
The US government has finally reopened after a 16-day shutdown. In the words of a man to his favourite pair of underwear that's just been washed, it's good to have you back. President Barack Obama, you know, from the Hope posters, addressed reporters after legislation was passed to resolve the crisis, saying, "Let's be clear, there are no winners here." Well, except the government workers returning to the office who were greeted with a variety of different treats.
Vice President Joe Biden brought muffins to federal workers entering the Environmental Protection Agency.
Biden blueberry muffs? Yes, please.
Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack ordered coffee and directed staff to free donuts.
Raise the donut ceiling, all right.
White House Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough, meanwhile, met executive branch employees at the gates of the White House and handed out high fives.
High fives? Go to hell, Dennis. This does not bode well for the White House Secret Santa. Well, we've all known the president has been busy negotiating during this crisis, and now we know what the vice president has been up to. I've been baking. Joe Biden there. The deal that ended this shutdown only gives the government borrowing authority until February 7, at which point they could face another shutdown. Translation, you only have 113 days left to watch government-funded Panda Cam. And now for a name I never thought I'd hear myself say on national television, Ridge Forrester, the iconic character from soap opera The Bold and the Beautiful, has been recast. I know, right? Ron Moss, the actor whose face has more angles than a decagon, left the show last year after playing Ridge for 25 years and will be replaced by actor Thorsten Kaye. I didn't think they'd be able to find anyone masculine enough to fill the role of Ridge, but I didn't take into consideration that someone had named their son Thorsten. Thorsten has starred in soap operas before and thus has the necessary skills of staring into middle distance for minutes at a time, pulling women close to him only to turn around and walk out the door, and starting a sentence at the end of one episode and finishing it at the start of the next. Meanwhile, Hunter Tylo, who plays Dr. Taylor Hayes on the show, continues to recast her own face. Former Labor Senator Trish Crossan, who always makes me think of 90s rappers Chris Cross, has come out in support of Kevin Rudd following Nicola Roxon's scathing speech about the former PM. And it seems Crossan's got her own scathing remarks to make about a former PM, saying yesterday she's got a good story to tell about Julia Gillard, but is choosing at this point in time not to tell it because people will be shocked. According to Fairfax, Trish is waiting for the right time to provide details of the shocking story, so I can only presume she's waiting for the annual Labor Party sleepover where they tell shocking stories and talk about which boys they want to kiss. My guess, Senator Kim Carr. He looks like he gives good hugs. Earlier this year, Gillard made a captain's pick to replace Crossan as Labor's Northern Territory Senate candidate with Nova Peris. In other words, Crossan didn't jump, she was pushed. But you know who did jump? 90s rappers Chris Cross. For The Roast, I'm Mark Humphries.
Also House of Pain. A lot of jumping around in the 90s. Anyway, next up tonight, a series of tough new anti-bikie laws have been passed in Queensland after a marathon session that saw MPs working through until 3 a.m. yesterday morning. Either that or they were just too scared to go outside in case there were any bikies waiting. But there was a lot to get through.
Part of that hearing was to list 26 outlaw clubs as criminal organisations.
I would argue the fact that they were already called outlaw clubs probably had the criminal bit covered, but still, 26 of them are now considered criminal organisations, including the Bandidos, Finks and Mongols. No word yet, though, on the Hip Cats, Scooby-Doo Mystery Gang or Visigoths. The concern, of course, is that these laws will also affect law-abiding bikie clubs like the Hogs, the Millionaires Bikie Club, when they go up to the Harvey's Range tea room. But before you make fun, remember, they take their tea black and without sugar, because they are also tough. You see, historically, bikie clubs started when a group of friends got together to do something they loved, and then someone brought along a friend who told another friend who brought their weird brother who was kind of shady, and before they knew it, they were torturing a man for 3 hours by breaking his knuckles with a pair of pliers. So it's hard to feel sorry for outlaw bikie gangs, but sometimes clubs that start with good intentions just get out of hand.
So thank you all for coming to book club. I'd like to start by saying that my favourite part of the
Anyone
book
want some meth?
No, thank you. But there's cupcakes available if you want cupcakes.
No, stick with meth.
Okay. So as I was saying, my favourite part of the book was when...
this?
Is that a dead body? Did anyone read Eat, Pray, Love?
But of course, the new laws are aimed at targeting gangs who are legitimately bad, like the Mongols. And if that music wasn't scary enough to convince you, their own website describes them as the baddest 1%er motorcycle club known worldwide. Now, the Mongols are a US-based gang with a diverse range of business interests.
Well, it covers
all the way from murder, all the way down to drug dealing and gun running.
All the way from really, really bad crime to really bad crime. But they also hold bizarre sexual rewards events called wings parties, where members can earn their wings by doing various things, like
Sex with a dead body.
at my wings parties, we just listen to Paul McCartney songs and watch Wings. And now the Mongols are coming to Australia after orchestrating a takeover of the Finks. And with it is going to come all the tedious negotiations that happen when you merge two organisations.
Okay, so it looks like we are in agreement. Once the takeover is complete, my clients will relinquish any intellectual property rights, we will transfer to Mongols colours, and we will continue to operate out of your clubhouses rather than sourcing new locations.
Perfect.
Oh, just before you sign that, there is one tiny sticking point. This sleeping with cadavers thing. Are you absolutely sure you've got no wiggle room on that?
Look, I understand your reservations. It's just the office culture around here. You know, it's tradition's tradition.
Right. It's just that usually in negotiations, both parties agree to compromise, not just one.
Okay, how about this for a compromise?
Okay.
I could probably convince my client not to kill you.
Well, that is a start. Yes.
And Premier Campbell Newman had fighting words for the bikies, saying, "You will be destroyed and we are going to hunt you relentlessly." And he sure told them, in that he told Parliament. It's not quite as impressive when you're talking tough in a place where there's no risk of kidnapping. It's really just the same level of tough talking as Robert De Niro's character in Taxi Driver.
Hey, are you in a bikie gang? Who am I? I'm the Premier, Motherfingers. Do you see any other state premiers around? 'Cause I don't. I'm shutting you down, leather pants. Ah, someone's breaking in!
Oh, sorry, honey, I just broke a glass.
Oh, phew. Drive by, drive by!
That's the TV, sweetie.
Oh, God. Are you a bikie? Here to kidnap me?
No, I'm from a book club, actually.
Oh, I'm currently reading Eat, Pray, Love. Is this fate? Are you my Katut?
Come here!
And finally tonight, one of the few issues that can legitimately claim to be a matter of life and death. A voluntary euthanasia bill has been defeated in a conscience vote in Tasmanian Parliament that would have allowed terminally ill patients to end their lives 10 days after making 3 requests to their doctor. The conscience vote being a sad reminder that politicians so rarely vote with their conscience, there is a special name for when they do. But it's such a divisive issue, it led to a debate lasting almost 10 hours over 2 parliamentary sessions. The Tasmanian Parliament was in fact almost perfectly divided, with 13 against and 11 in favour, with all Liberal MPs and 3 Labor members opposing it. Interestingly, that tiny margin of opposition by Tasmania's representatives did not seem to represent the opinions of Tasmanians, because polling had shown that 80% of Tasmanians from all political persuasions supported law reform around euthanasia. So even though there appeared to be an overwhelming 80% mandate for change, one that Tony, I really do have a mandate for repealing the carbon tax, Abbott could only dream of, the bill was defeated. Jazz Twemlow has more.
The Tasmanian state government has voted against taking euthanasia legislation any further, because apparently the government will let you smoke, drink and eat your way towards a terminal illness. But as soon as you have that government-approved terminal illness, then they will step in and legislate your existence. Unlike the compassion we show our beloved pets when we put them down while they're in pain, which makes us humane. Humane here meaning not affording the same rights to humans as we do animals. Confused? I am. And just to rub it in, the Bondi vet euthanizes animals in front of you on your television, and that show rates its balls off. Of course, you have to sympathise with MPs voting on this, discussing tax and waste management one minute, then the next you're voting on the metaphysics of mortality. What we need is 2 governments, a regular government stuff government that deals with the day-to-day issues, and then a striking at the very core of existence government, which is everyone in the country, and where you can choose to weigh in on only those issues you feel qualified to answer. Okay, so is an interstate trade agreement preferential for farmers in Lilydale during a drought?
Next one.
Okay. Do you think that the height of road curbs needs to be standardised?
We'll come back to that.
Okay. Do you think that terminally ill people should have a right to end their life if they're able to express consent?
I do actually have an opinion about this. Yes.
Great. So should those patients require 3 consultations with 2 different doctors or 4 consultations with just 1?
So back to that curb thing?
Okay. But in the regular government stuff government of Tasmania, neither side could convince the other to change their opinions, which tells us when there's a striking moral issue like this, rational arguments aren't going to change the minds of parliamentarians. The only way to do that would be to actually change their minds.
I agree with euthanasia because of my morality.
I disagree with euthanasia because of my morality.
Oh, I get it now. But not that many of the public's minds need to be changed, because 80% of Tasmanians polled said they're in favour of euthanasia reform, which sounds like the public should be able to express themselves in some sort of election that in England we call a referendum, which is more widely known in Australia as a special nationwide vote you use to tell the Queen you still like her. Because while the public may not be qualified to vote on a drought or road curbs because they're not politicians, they are qualified to vote on what it's like to be a human, because they're humans. For The Roast, I'm Jazz Twemlow.
Yeah, what he said. Good night.